Nature has always been inside of me. I've always felt a part of it. From a sidekick, a family dog growing up, to the endless summers spent running rogue in the fields, on my grandmother's farm, over the stone wall, into the fairy foot, down into the forest, playing with the creatures, surrounded by the resident rabbits and the swooning buzzards that always watched us when we played. And as I grew up, it always stuck with me, and I got to fulfill a dream of mine in my 30s when I began to work, study, and volunteer in the zoo. It was an amazing experience because it was a window into the wild that I'd ached for my whole life. And every morning, it started the same, literally a symphony of the wild. It began with the gravelly, grumbling sound of the lion as he roared, and you could hear him all the way across the zoo. Next would come the screeching of the gibbons, the howling of the wolves, the trumpeting of the elephants, the squeaking of the rhinos, and then you'd be hit with the overwhelming smell of all the 600 animals that live there. It was an incredible experience and a privilege, and I absolutely loved it. And one of my favorite experiences was being involved with a gorilla study. We were looking at habitat design and design that best reflected the elephants or the gorillas' biology. We noted down their behavior, where they perform certain behaviors, and then this information would be taken and given to other zoos in order to try and create the best habitat for the animals that live there. And one morning, I was up in the freezing cold, hunched in the corner by the gorillas, watching the 7 family members that live there. And Harry, the silverback, was sitting with his back to the window, and his younglings, Katuba the male and Kimbari the female, were playing alongside him. And after a few minutes, Harry pushed them off, as many young fathers do, fed up with their younglings, sent them on their way, but Kimbari came back and she persevered to get her father's attention. She climbed up on his stomach, and they played and they interacted and they groomed just for a little bit longer. And watching their love and their connection was really beautiful, actually, to see you could actually feel the love that they felt for each other. After a few minutes, Kimbari noticed me by the corner, sitting by the glass, and she scrambled over to look. I put my hand to the glass, and she reciprocated. And just for a minute, we looked deep into each other's faces. I felt like she looked deep into my soul, and I looked deep into hers. And it was literally like being transported back in time. Transported to a time where man, ape, gorilla, we were the same. We were connected. We had that mutual respect and connection for each other. The interaction actually only lasted a few seconds. She quickly ran on. And as I began to walk back down to the centre, I was really taken by the incident. In fact, I was actually almost moved to tears. Firstly, because the interaction between Kimbari and Harry, her father, reminded me so much of the hundreds of times that I sat up on my father's knee and we shared that love and connection. But secondly, I was moved to my core to have such a rare moment with an amazing creature, an amazing animal. And as I trotted back down, I began to really worry about Kimbari and her family and her wild counterparts. The fact that her family may not be around in the wild in the next decade. And I was reflecting on, God, man, what have we done? We've lost 70% of biodiversity since the 1970s. And amazing, majestic creatures like the gorillas, the elephants, the giraffes may not be here as we enter into the next decade. And just to put it into perspective, how dominant and how destructive human beings have been. If we condense the history of the world into a 24-hour clock, Earth has been around for 4.5 billion years, and Homo sapien, wise man, arrived about 200,000 years ago. That's in the terms of the clock, that's in the last 3 seconds of the last 24 hours. And in just 3 seconds, we have unstabilized temperatures on Earth. There's never been as much pollution and plastic in the ocean. In fact, scientists predict that there'll be more plastic than fish by weight in the ocean by 2050. We've destroyed forests through our agriculture. We've polluted the skies. We've polluted the fields through agriculture, through our soils. We've destroyed nature. So maybe Homo sapien isn't so wise, after all, as we literally destroy the hand that feeds us. So where has this disconnection gone? What's happened? Why are we so disconnected? And how are we going to move forward for this? For me, I want my children to experience nature the way that I have. And I want my children to be able to go to Africa, enjoy those beautiful wild animals on the savannah like I have. So I see we're at a crossroads. We're at a crossroads in terms of climate change, and we're at a crossroads in terms of biodiversity loss. So we can choose if we want to continue to sleepwalk into a climate and ecological catastrophe, or we can choose to turn this around, to stabilize temperatures, to regenerate nature so that we can safeguard future generations to have a safe planet for people, for species, and for planet. So for me, what I do in schools is I like to make the environment personal. I like to join the dots between these huge issues like climate change and biodiversity loss. What does that mean to the me, the self, and the I? Because you see, we're all part of this story. We're all part of the puzzle. So next time you're sitting in your sitting room and you're watching a climate catastrophe, the storms, the droughts, the fires, the hurricanes like we've never seen before, play out in your television screen, I'd like you to ask yourself, well, what has this got to do with me and what can I do about it? So breaking these big concepts down, what we all need to understand is, yes, we need system change. Yes, we need governments to protect and legislate. But actually, everything we do in our own lives, the way that we eat, the way that we travel, the way that we consume, our clothes, everything comes from nature. So we need to step back and consciously think about what we're buying, what we're consuming, and question everything we do. Next time you go to the supermarket, buy local. Pick up the ingredients and ask, is this product sustainable? Is it ethical? Is it certified? And has it done any damage on its journey to get into my hands? And what will happen after? If I'm buying plastic, it's going to be around for hundreds and hundreds of years. Do I need it? Maybe you don't. So the question is which road are we going to take? Are we going to, in the history books, have the story that, yes, we turned this problem around. Yes, we made the right decisions. Because it's up to all of us to be conscious, to think about what we do critical, and for us to make the environment personal. It's only together that we can overturn and create a new era where we are connected and we are conscious of our home, which is Mother Earth. Thank you.